giving poor. They were giving commoners.
Really.
They were giving commoners. Hey, I'm your host Alexis.
And I'm your co-host Drew.
Sit back and relax because you're
in good company.
Guys, I want to apologize because we did miss a week.
We
We definitely didn't make an announcement. But that's on us. Recently, some new changes. I am at a new school. Very exciting. And Truk, I
I just graduated from our current school,
Yes.
and right now I'm just working, living my life. But yeah, like new schedules. We're not seeing each other, Alexis
as
and
often.
I.
No.
Yeah, so we've been adjusting.
Yeah, it's been a shift for sure. Guys, I'm officially an English major, so I'm reading like hundreds of pages a night. And it was funny because I went to my advisor and she was like, usually people don't take this many English classes at once. And I said, I see why. I definitely set myself up with that one. But anyway, we are going to get back to our scheduling as usual very soon, hopefully. We might end up being a bit spaced out. But,
it really depends on how well we were able to adjust with this video, and we'll go from there.
Yes,
but please be patient as we figure out this new schedule.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sticking around, and welcome back to another episode.
Yes, I would honestly going to call this a new era. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about tokenism versus representation and examining our thoughts on the media of today. Truk actually suggested this topic, which is shout out to Drew.
Thank you.
But when she suggested it to me, I thought it was really funny because I wrote 2 papers on this.
And you had a presentation too, right?
Yes, while in my first just 2 years of college, because clearly I'm very impassioned about this subject. So
it all worked out.
No, it really did. And y'all, I'm pulling up these 2 papers right now to reference. So let's just talking about what is tokenism? Like the official definition, our definition.
Right. So my personal definition of tokenism is just somebody thrown on there to kind of fill off a checklist and to fulfill this archetype, this caricature, without being a fully fleshed out person.
Heavy on that.
So what would your personal definition of tokenism be?
I would say, to me, tokenism is especially when the character is thrown into a space with a lack of care. I think when they're you can tell they're not 3-dimensional, they're very static. They're in there to serve one purpose and one purpose only, and that's usually to either fill a quota, as people like to say, or even uplift the white character. Basically, I'm your support system. Whatever you need me to do, I'm gonna do it. And I would even argue it's really bad representation. I will say in some cartoons, or guys, I watch anime, and unfortunately the thing that peeves me about it is when they draw black people is I would Jim Crow era, looking huge lips and the big nose, and I'm I'd rather you have not even included us if you were gonna make us look like that. We look crazy, and this will be popular shows, so people kind of let it slide because they enjoy the media so much. But I'm guys, we still don't know how to draw black people. This is crazy to me. And they be doing it to other characters, because Pokemon, I remember early Pokemon, I think they had a black character look crazy, that an Asian character look crazy, which is it not an Asian show? I'm confused. Wait, how did we do that?
That very exaggerated.
No,
very
yeah,
exaggerated.
And you see it in cartoons, you see it in live action, but I would say the actual definition. True, do you have it pulled up?
Yes, I do. So the actual definition that I just pulled directly off of Google is tokenism is the practice of making only a perfunctory or symbolic effort to do a particular thing, especially in the workforce, by recruiting a small number of people from underrepresented groups in order to give the appearance of sexual or racial equality within the workforce.
Heavy on that.
Genuinely, just like Alexa said earlier, to fill off a quota and to give this perspective that we are very welcoming, even though you are not diving deep into these cultures and learning about it.
Right, I feel these characters aren't real people. They're just there, and that's what I really don't like about it. I would say, obviously when it comes to meaningful representation, when you are able to see it, you resonate with the character, you feel seen by that character, and it's just this little warmth. You're oh my gosh, someone like me is on TV and doing these things, and it's so cool to see. I would say, do you have a character that has ever done that for you?
Honestly, no. Mainly because a lot of TV media, and when it comes to Asian representation, focuses very heavily on East Asian culture.
That's real.
And not a lot of, South Asians or Southeast Asians kind of can pull from that.
Right.
Actually, I wanted to bring up this show today. Like I mentioned it before, like Never Have I Ever, right?
Yeah.
It is very heavy on South Asian representation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was so cool, and that was like my major draw to the show.
Yeah.
I'm not South Asian, but I love learning about different cultures, and I get to see that on screen. And I just think it's amazing because, it's not very common for like American television shows to kind of put other like ethnicities in the spotlight.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, y'all, Avatar: The Last Airbender is actually what did it for me. Not because they had black characters, but because at 8 years old, I thought Katara was black. And when I tell you, and I was like, oh my gosh, we have a cool black girl on screen like Hicken, but she's not black. But when I found out that it was based off like indigenous and like Asian culture, I was just as like excited as invested because that's not my background. But I just like seeing people on screen that I felt like I could relate to more.
Right, diversity on screen.
And it was dope. So like shout out to you, Katara. I know you're not black, but you were black to me.
To 8-year-old Alexis.
To 8-year-old me, you were black.
No, but actually I do want to get into what you said about how like her experiences kind of like spoke to you in a certain way, because I was reading a couple articles before this podcast and they were saying if you bring in writers of the correct ethnicity to portray the character in a certain way, you're able to kind of seep more into their depth as a human being. And well-written characters will speak to anybody despite their race.
I agree 100%, and that's why you have like movies like Black Panther, which are so obviously like black, that y'all, we had white people going Wakanda forever. Y'all, go off, King. Like,
it's
but I'm saying,
it's a
like, it literally, like, it just transcended. It wasn't just a black movie for black people. It was just a movie everyone loved, and it really happened to resonate with black people. And it was like cool that we have something of our own, but also I think it's also really special when other people are able to get into it and enjoy it as well, because you have these weird spaces where I've even seen people talk about this on like sitcoms. Friends is like a white TV show that everyone can enjoy, but it's like a very much a white show. And then you have shows like Family Matters, which is obviously like a black sitcom, like because when you have a majority black cast, it gets turned into a black show. Or even like Fresh Off the Boat was very much like an Asian like sitcom that was kind of like I feel like they wanted to do like every minority is going to get their own like Modern Family like type of show, type of look. And I would say I think it's cool. I think it's also like, to me, it feels somewhat like they have to do that because they weren't conscientious enough to include us in other forms of media. They're like, okay, just have your own. So I think I'm at a push and pull with that. I like the aspect of like having like our own sitcoms, but I also wish it didn't have to just be like so very targeted to our niche.
You want, like, personally for me, I would like diversity to be more on a casual basis rather than a very targeted basis.
Yeah.
What was this show that I was thinking of? There was, I think it's it wasn't Never Have I Ever. It was a different show, but, okay, this is so unserious, but you know Bridgerton, right?
Of course.
Yes, they were just people of color living their day-to-day life within this fantasy world. And I thought that was fun because they get to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
In that certain
I will
aspect.
say I liked that concept, but then they did start to bring in race, and then it was like, okay, is this fantasy or are we talking about it? And I feel like they were kind of
and
like...
there's like a push and pull with, are you guys trying to make commentary about societal like experiences, and then while also balancing fantasy? So yes, I agree. It's a push and pull.
It's not perfect, but it's closer to, I think, what people really crave and want. I will say, unpopular opinion, I find that all the women of color on that show are bad, bruh. Like, they are fine as all get out, and their partners are like these really mid-looking white men, and it like that's why I think I can't get into the Bridgerton hype, because I'm like, oh wow, look at her, then I'm like, oh, look at him, oh, look at him. I'm like, she's like gracing my screen, and then he's there. I don't know, like, cast hotter men, like, please, I'm begging. But real talk, what would you say, like, True, were there any like examples of tokenism that you feel like have been like done in media that you watch? Or like, I know I didn't watch the Bachelor season, but I did see people commenting on how you can talk more about that, because you were the one who brought this up to me.
Okay, so the whole reason I brought up this idea today was because in the latest Bachelorette season, we had our first ever Asian American woman join the cast, right? So
shout out to her.
Never before have we had an Asian woman be the Bachelorette.
Be the lead as well. Yeah.
So, you know, she is a Vietnamese American. Shout out to that girly pop.
I might just say, like, she's very, very pretty. Like,
yes,
she's super pretty. So I was like, what's the problem here?
Right. And like, people feel as if her identity was thrown in as a last ditch effort to kind of push this show back into mainstream media, because before, the Bachelorette really wasn't performing the numbers that it used to perform, and throwing in an Asian American woman was what pulled in the Asian community to tune in and to really watch this show.
And I would argue likely other minorities as well want to see other minorities on screen,
because they want to support, like, other communities, minority communities want to support one another. And it made me think, like, hey, this really isn't representation. She's just being thrown into the wolves to just fulfill a certain checkpoint, to fulfill this marketing need of the Bachelorette.
Heavy on that.
And it didn't feel genuine. And the people who were casted, like the men that was picked out to be on her show, I remember hearing, like,
they were under the impression it was gonna be,
it was another white woman.
Yeah.
And that was how, you know, she was thrown under the bus and didn't get the love that she needed.
And I will say, yeah, as Truk was saying, it was sad to, because I didn't see it played like in real time, but I was seeing clips and see people talk about it, and the way it went down with how, you know, the person she thought she was going to marry ended up not being into her, sort of like faking the affection, it seemed, was really sad. Like, no one deserves to be treated like that, especially so publicly. So I hope she gets mad money after this, and I hope she gets mad brand deals, and I hope we don't hear from him anymore. And that's all I'm gonna say on that. Now, like, continuing, because that's kind of like the, I guess, our main, like, jumping off point that we were thinking of that, like, recently happened. I wanted to ask you, Truk, as I was saying, like, talking about a little bit earlier, so are there any examples of, like, film or TV that you feel like badly use tokenism? And like growing up, because I feel like there was a lot of it, and now they're sort of getting better.
Okay, I'm gonna be so honest with you. I didn't watch a lot of film and TV when I was younger, so pulling from those examples, I can't think of it.
I got one that covers all bases.
Go ahead.
Jesse, and let me tell you why Jesse was bad.
That was actually an example in one of my
we quite literally, we had about a kid of every race in there, and they had the Indian kid, they had the black kid. Later on in Bunk, they had an Asian kid. But the thing that really, like, because I remember watching that show, and my dad was like, these are just stereotypes, everyone. I said, shh, let me enjoy my show. But looking back, he was right. Because, guys, Zuri is a typical sassy black little girl. Then we have Robbie, who this was actually the first Indian I had seen on a mainstream TV show, like, that I watched. And I still one of the only ones that I'm seeing, besides, like, obviously now we have other shows like on Netflix. Never Have Ever. It was Never Have Ever, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so then we also had that on Bridgerton too.
Yeah, and I don't even feel like The Office counts, bro. She was like, we're not even gonna get
from The Office.
I don't feel like that did anything. But the point is, I guess she was there. But watching that show, he was like very, I felt like, to me, he was demasculinized the entire show. He was seen as like weak and not very strong, and I just think Asian men are demasculinized all the time. So
furthermore, they also like kind of made him out to be really weird with his whole pet lizard, kind of like exotifying him.
Exactly. Because that's normal. Because girl, what?
Yeah.
And so then, of course, like, I would say Emma was the more stereotypical rich, blonde, sort of nice, sort of mean white girl. And then, oh my goodness, why am I blanking?
The other little,
why am I blanking?
Boy.
Oh, why am I blanking? Cameron? No, Cameron was his real name. Let's look it up right now. Why don't I have internet? Girl, look it up. What was his name? I'm so sorry. It's been years since Luke, shout out to Cameron boys. You were dearly missed. Real. But I'm sorry. Luke was like the, I guess, bad boy, not bad boy, kind of like, I feel like he was there for like the girls to have a little crush on somebody, because I definitely had a little crush on him. His freckles.
No shame.
Oh my goodness. So then we have like that cast of characters, and Bunked, I would argue, was honestly, in a way, it was just as bad. It just continued the stereotypes. And I do not remember the name of the girl who was the Asian girl, but I remember like distinct moments in these episodes where she came back after, you know, being away, and she was all like stressed out and like homeworked up because her mom made her do homework, like a tiger mom. Or we had another just like different instance when she first came to camp, like she couldn't relax because she's like, I have to do my homework, this and that. So like the stereotypical like Asian students are always doing homework and working, and like whatever stereotype they had, they threw it at a wall and they said, okay, that's the character. And I think it was like, looking back, they really weren't trying to give you accurate portrayals of like these people, and that was upsetting to see. Like, so give me any of your thoughts on Jessie, please.
Honestly, I did not watch a lot of Jessie. I have heard a lot of commentary about what you just shared.
Yeah.
And yes, a lot of it really was just stereotypes back in like 2010 when it first came out.
And I feel like they never really dwelled into, like, I guess, deeper lived experiences, what it would be like to be adopted by white parents or anything like that. I mean, their parents were neglectful. They loved them, but they were neglectful. But I don't think that was like a personal thing.
There's a lot of commentary. Like, obviously, it's Disney, so I'm not expecting this kind of, you know,
no, I expect
commentary.
better
Okay.
because they have millions of children watching their media. Like, that's what kids were watching. They were watching Nick. They were watching Cartoon Network. They were watching Disney. So I feel like I really don't like when media basically says, oh, it's just for kids, so we don't have to make it really, you know, thought-provoking or interesting. Right. And I think you have more shows that are trying to do that. Like, there's so many shows, sorry to cut you off.
No,
there
go
were
ahead.
so many shows that I wish I had watched growing up, like, where they have like little like black people are the main characters. I'm like, what? Like, I could have had that growing up. Like, that would have been so amazing. Like, every, you know, and
ooh, I read an essay that this mother was sharing. She's a black mother, and she was talking about how she only wants to let her kid watch shows where black children are the main character. And she shared how much struggle she had finding shows for them to watch. And like one of the few shows was just like Doc McStuffins.
Oh, I remember. Shout out to Doc. Shout out to my girl.
Wait, Doc McStuffins. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, I did not remember that.
In.
I did not remember that.
Sorry, I watched that show. I had fun with it.
That's me with Sophia the First.
Sophia the First.
I'm finding out what
being royal's all about. Sophia the First.
Making my way, making adventures every day. Sophia.
It's gonna be my time.
Sophia.
To show them that I'm
Sophia the First.
But actually,
I wish Sophia had been black like that. Clearly, she made a huge impression on me.
No, but like Sophia the First actually had.
Girl, I don't think they had good representation of Sophia the First.
They didn't have good representation, but
like,
they threw in.
She had the black best friend. That's what she had.
The black best
and
friend.
I remember I was seeing clips about it because I forgot. Why were her friends so annoying? Like, that's not good representation.
No, I saw.
They were giving commoners.
Really.
They were giving commoners.
They literally were commoners.
But they gave it. Like, come on.
They truly, to their whole character, their whole archetype was commoner.
No, really. It was, like, why they embarrass me like that? But I will say, like, we see a lot of tropes that are commonly used. And I'm going to talk about the black community. And then, you know, it was like the black best friend trope, the sassy black character, the Jezebel, who like the over-sexualized black woman trope, the mammy, the really mother-like role. And then you had like the magical Negro, which is basically when we have a black person who has like powers of some sort, and their whole thing is helping the white person and their counterparts do whatever it is. And I just think of all these different pairings that I would love to see. Like, I remember at some point I was starved to see, you know, romance stories with black women in them. And I was like, why do black women only have romance stories with black men or white men? And I was like, there's a lot of other guys out there. There's a lot of races out there. I want them with Asian. I want them with Indian. I want them with, I don't care. I want them with indigenous. Like, I just want to see it. I just want to like see these pairings, and the fact that they don't feel like they have, I guess, a market for it. I know the Acolyte, I think I'm pronouncing that right, was Amanda Stenberg, and then we had Fine. Why am I blanking on his name? But the finest man ever from The Good Place. And they were playing like love interest, and people went feral for it, and they were like, please, Disney, please listen to us. This is what we want. I never thought I would see such a mainstream black and Asian couple together. Like, and they're fine too.
Shout out.
I am blanking on his name, but
yeah, no, I'm blanking on his name too.
but I just know like that was exciting to see. Like I want more things like that to start happening. Are there any like
Manny and
shout out to Manny
and
No,
who was he paired with?
Amandla Stenberg, who played Rue in the Hunger Games, which I remember when she got casted, there was a lot of hate despite the fact that she was black in the books, and people were sending like her death threats at 10, and it was just like,
wow.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad. And she recently was getting a lot of threats because she was playing a black character in the Star Wars franchise, and people weren't happy about that. And I just think, how can you can't even play a role without getting hated on it because you're black. That is the only reason they're hating on these people.
That's really difficult.
That's crazy to me. And I don't know. I feel like growing up, typically they put like Asian people in like super smart, super strict.
Yeah. It's always like nerdy, a little bit aloof.
I feel like you guys have less stereotypes than us.
Socially awkward, always to the side.
Like bad with the girls.
Yeah. Like small, powerless, all of that. Like they try to minimize.
When I think about it, come on, y'all, get creative. How we got like 10 different stereotypes? It's because of slavery. But how we got like 10 different ones? And I don't know, y'all. Come on, do better.
You say add more stereotypes.
Do some more with it. Like spice it up a little.
Have a little differences. But yeah, no, it's there. But I guess my thing is when I consume media, I'm so passive. Like, it's actually so bad how passive I am.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and when I was younger, I didn't pick up on those stereotypes because it's just
Agreed.
like, oh my gosh, look, it's like people on the screen. It's so happy.
Agreed.
So, yeah.
And I think that's unfortunate, though, because when you are a kid, these are enforcing these stereotypes to you. And I know some kids grow up.
It's unconscious.
Right, they grow up without seeing certain minorities, especially some people who grow up in majority white areas, and then if you happen to be minority, that's the only representation you see. But if you're never around minorities, you start to think they act like this. This is who they are.
And outside of representation as well, I feel like having a lot of more diversity on screen is a great education for people in the predominant community, because they are allowed to be like socially adept to other people, allowed to like communicate with other cultures and not have that weird kind of mishmash when they have been exposed to a good, diverse
and I want to say like accurate, because that's why I really can't stand when you have people who clearly have never interacted with like a black person in real life, and they're giving us a very much like thug AAVE what up dog, like when no one talks like that. You can very quickly tell when they haven't actually been around this person they're trying to imitate. They're basing it off of what they've seen on their screen, and it's highly inaccurate and it's highly offensive. And I hope you say it to the wrong person one day, because you about to get blocked. Like, y'all, please, walking stereotypes of people you see on TV is just strange. It's just odd.
And also, right, these stereotypes don't encompass the diversity of lived experiences, social class, different environments, school education, all of that really kind of comes in and builds together a person in themselves.
It's always just one version.
When we play that stereotype, we strip away the ability for them to be a character of their own outside of their race.
Heavy on that. Like, clock it.
Like, I feel like representation is not only about skin color, it's more about just your lived life and your lived experiences. And people love rich stories. We've seen it with the Avatar. We've seen it, like, I'm just gonna pull out from like Everything and Everywhere All at Once, because I really liked that the Asian representation in that specific movie was not about just them being Asian. It's about the different generational experiences, how the mother and the daughter experiences trauma and how they experience life as is, familial relationships, kind of navigating the queer experience. Like, there's so much more than just being Asian.
Yeah.
Being Asian adds an extra layer to that movie. And, a lot of our community was able to connect with the whole mother and daughter thing. I know I connected with it a lot.
I saw so many people talk about the intensity of how they connected with that movie.
But it's like, there's so many layers to representation, and there's so many different avenues that you can take that, like, people love rich stories. You can make rich, in-depth stories.
Can I say, I think, oh my goodness, I'm trying to think of, like, the right word. I would argue that that, like, that intensity of, like, how much you feel like you connected to that movie is how white women felt about Barbie. Like, that's how white women felt about Barbie, bruh. Because it was, like, for me, I remember when I watched Barbie, and I do want to talk about this because I saw it with my friend, and we're both black, and I remember being like, girl, I felt like that movie wasn't for us. Like, I felt like I could enjoy it for what it was, but I was like, we weren't the audience they were writing to. And I think it's because it was written by a white woman and it starred a majority white cast. And while they did have, you know, the Asian Barbie and the black Barbie and all these,
like, think about that. The black Barbie, the Asian Barbie. Think about that.
Exactly. But Barbie can be whatever Barbie wants to be. And I did have a Barbie growing up, and I loved that. But it was black Barbie. Shout out to her, because she wasn't my girl. But the point is, I do remember I just felt like a disconnect. And I think that's how I kind of feel with a lot of media. But as you were saying, you kind of become more passive because you're like, it's never for us, so we'll just take what we can out of it. And that's why it's really frustrating when you do have a movie that is so clearly for you. And I have seen online and in person, a lot of people feel upset, like white people feel upset because they don't relate or they can't see themselves. And this happens in books, books especially. Y'all be getting fed up. Media, TV shows. And it's like, you're living one day in our shoes. This is our entire life. Y'all are not even getting bad, like, stereotypes in this movie. And I will say one thing I've noticed is that they tend to want to include, like, that one white character that people really like. Why do we have that one white character in Black Panther? Why is he there? To be like, white people are good. Like, some white people are bad, but most of them are good. And I'm pretty sure that, I'm not gonna lie, I heard that man was racist in real life, so I'm gonna clock that, because if he was, no more Black Panther money. Like, give me that. Give it to the black community, because that's crazy. But I will just say, I do think y'all are very, like, it's giving crybaby. Why do y'all care so much? This is what we be doing every day, and it sucks, but it's also like, we don't have a choice. We're not in those writing rooms.
Oh my gosh. You know the movie that Disney released, Soul, and how it had a black character as the main character, and how he spent the entire time as a blue blob?
Yeah.
And that was a major critic for it.
Yeah.
I actually came to learn that they didn't have a black writer on the script until 2 years after production.
Wow.
When they were like, ooh, make him a jazz middle school teacher.
And they didn't have a black person?
Correct. So originally he was a white character before they brought on a black writer to help curate that story into more of a black story.
Think about it. They do it a lot. They're like, Princess and the Frog, you're your very own princess. But she's an animal most of the time. They do that. Brother Bear, the indigenous movie.
Yeah.
Why were there bears the whole time? Like, they love to do that. They love to turn us into animals, which is like, I'm not an animal. But that's also like a weird stereotype they're reinforcing, that it's like, that's a bad look.
I also want to add with the whole movie that people were like, oh, the Asians have Mulan, they have Jasmine. But please recognize that Mulan is like East Asian,
it's
right?
Different.
It's China.
People think all Asians are the same. They like group them in one category, and they're like,
y'all
are a unit.
When you said group them in a category, that's exactly what they did with Raya and the Last Dragon.
Wait, can you talk about, I'm sorry, All the Boys I Love Before? We looked up the casting once for that movie. Why are they all a different type of Asian, but they're siblings? Huh? Like, wasn't Homegirl like Chinese American, and they're saying she's Korean?
So she was Vietnamese American.
Okay, she's Vietnamese American.
She was playing as Korean American.
That was crazy. Wait, that's the little sister or the older one?
Older sister.
I'm talking about the little sister.
Younger sister was Chinese
Okay,
American.
see, I'm not bugging.
Yeah.
And now she got her little K-drama like show. Girl, get out of here. Why are they all the same?
Yeah.
Like, that's also a really weird thing that they do. They feel like, especially with Asian people, y'all are switchable. I feel like black people, they just like put a half white, like they'll put a mixed person there.
Biracial.
They'll put a biracial there and call them black. But Asians are like, it don't matter, bro. They don't know
any of them in.
It don't even matter, bro. They're all Asian.
Like, no, can we talk about like the colorism within Hollywood as well? Because
it's bad.
They only push the aesthetic version of our race and not the real, experience of people within our ethnicity. And it's like, ayo.
And I will say, I feel like part of it is probably because like I'm thinking I'm going to relate it back to, because anime is so popular and that's a very like subsection of Asian people.
Right.
If y'all had something like that was just, it overtook the media, maybe they care more. I hate to say that, but if you made more money,
If you
maybe
were marketable.
they care. Yeah, like if you were making us more money, like maybe we would make more stories, but like you're not. So I feel like it comes down to profit.
Right. It always does.
And that's why, I'd be getting scared. Like, I'm like, please don't let this minority-led movie bomb, because they'll never do it again.
Right, because then they wouldn't have the opportunity to like pick themselves back up the way that other creators
Or in the incentive, they'll be like, well, we tried it. Sorry. Like, or they'll purposely just not do a very good job advertising a movie that has diverse characters, whether they're part of the queer community or they're black or they're whatever it is. Because I feel like if they don't advertise it a lot, then they can't get a lot of outrage, but then also then no one knows about it and no one shows up.
It's just they feel like it would not give them a large return on investment, and from there they're just like, it's not worth to invest in it.
Didn't they do that with the Strange World movie? I'm thinking
I don't know what you're
Strange
talking
World
about.
like had the first trans character in a
Really?
Disney movie, and it bombed because no one knew about it. And I found out about it because some people were like, does anyone know about this movie?
Oh.
And it's like, they're never going to do that again because they're like, oh, sorry.
This?
Yes, girl.
I've never heard of this.
See? Because they didn't want you to know about it. That's a Disney original. And nobody even like...
Dang. So they just made it to fill off a quota, said,
Heavy
hey, we
on
have
that.
representation. Here's the one movie we made.
I bet they're in the meetings, they're like, okay, black movie, queer movie. We don't care who writes it. We don't care who does it. Just make it done. I'm convinced like those are how the board meetings go. But like as we wrap up, because we talked about a lot of different things.
We discussed a lot.
We hit a lot of different points. When thinking about representation in media, I think we can obviously tell when it does feel forced, when it does feel like a lack of care, and then you can also tell stories that do seem they have a lot of care in them. Are there any movies that you feel like exceeded that stereotype, or is there even like a role that you want to see Asians in? Because I know black people were like, please give us awkward black girl. Like, we never see that on ourselves. We want to see it so bad. So when Bottoms came out, and we had like a very like kind of like awkward black girl who happened to be queer, they were like, this is what we wanted. Like this, and she's like the winner at the end of the movie. And shout out to Homegirl is also in The Bear, but I'm blanking on her name.
Was she the one that won an award this year?
I think she was. Like, she's really popping up. Shout out to her. But
yeah,
what
I saw her when she received the award, I was really happy for her. Yeah.
And seeing like things like that, I want to see more like quirky little fun like black girls. Like, I want to see that. I don't see that at all. I don't think people feel like they can relate to it, so they don't do it a lot. So shout out to like small independent films that be trying to break barriers.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the whole, I don't know what kind of roles I want to see like Asian people in. I think it's more of I want to see more of our culture being displayed.
I agree.
Because Asia is not one whole sub-unit. We break into so many minor countries, and you know, only East Asians get pushed. And I recognize that as a Southeast Asian, I know Vietnamese culture does get pushed. It is one of the more like known ones, and I recognize that, you know, that is celebrated.
Right.
But I do want to push people more in like, you know, Burma, Laos, and all of like Thailand, like other Southeast Asian cultures that really aren't celebrated. Like, they're celebrated, but they're not mainstream.
Yeah, and touching on that, I know when people were up in arms, when I am forgetting Homegirl's name, but they were like fan casting her in Tangled.
Oh my gosh,
she got so much hate for that. She was in the new Mean Girls. Stunning, by the way. She's
oh my gosh, yes,
crazy
I know
pretty.
Exactly who
she would have been an amazing freaking Rapunzel. Like, don't even piss me off. But white women were having a field day because they're like, you can't take this from us. Take what? Like, y'all still got the freaking animation.
What was I gonna say? People were saying like adding culture to the Tangled universe would be so cool, because a lot of Indian women were like, long hair is a strong tradition of theirs, taking care and maintaining their hair and all of that. And I feel like the colors in Indian culture can really pull into like the Rapunzel universe. It's like give and take, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think when you do have films like even The Little Mermaid, did I care about Little Mermaid like that? No. Did I care when she was like, yeah, Disney knew what they were doing. Yeah. She had the voice of an angel. Like, you got me. But seeing a Disney princess with locks, seeing a character on screen with locks, I don't know if we'll ever get something like that for a while. I hope we get more of it. But that genuinely, like, little kids getting to grow up with that and have something different, and then having the original, I am just like, that is genuinely healing my inner child. Like, if I were to have kids, I'd be like, we got about 30 different, maybe, about 30 different shows, but we had about 5 when I was growing up, so we're doing a lot better.
Here's the thing, Cinderella has iterations all the time.
You're so right.
How many Cinderella remakes there are?
Constantly.
Always. So I don't see the issue of making a remake of another original Disney princess. It's fine because Cinderella gets remade all the time.
Yeah. And I agree with that.
It's a reimagination of a classic story, and I don't see an issue in that.
Well, I just feel like, my theory is that, and this is not all white people, obviously, so don't get butthurt, but some of them really feel like them being the standard is slipping away. So when they see, new popular movies that are beloved, and you're starting to cast people who don't look like them, I think there's a panic there. I think there's oh no, like, we're losing our stronghold on the media, which I don't think they are. I think they still very much have one.
Because they still control the behind the scenes.
Precisely. So it's still, I say, unless a story does really well with a minority, you maybe won't get a sequel. Like, I remember, and I don't know how accurate it is, but Crazy Rich Asians came out, and people really enjoyed that film. And they were like, it's a book series. Let's get a second one.
Yeah.
We never got a second one.
Yep.
I want a cute little romance rom-com with Asian people. Like, it did well. Where is it?
I think it did great in terms of numbers, but I'm not sure why they didn't come out
exactly.
with a second one.
And I think it's stuff like that. Though I will say that movie was a bit weird because Brenda Song was told, you're not Asian enough to be in this movie. But then
yes,
the lead is Asian. They love doing that. They love doing that. They love doing that. And then it still had its problems, but baby steps. But yes, I think that is where we're basically going to be wrapping up today. I would say my last little thoughts on like why I feel like diversity matters and it's important. And I'll say people are tired of being boxed in. They're tired of being seen as just as
a stereotype.
Exactly. And a static character at that. You're not even writing interesting stereotypes like y'all. It's been done. And I'll say, honestly, when you have well done diversity, you're getting to see all these different stories. I think Hollywood is running through the same stories and the same problems because they are unwilling to branch out. If you start branching out, you would have incredible work and incredible people to be bouncing ideas off of. Like, I think about the hit success that is Avatar. Avatar is crazy problematic to me because how you gonna have a story about indigenous people and they're all white? But guess what? People like seeing stories about indigenous people. Yeah. But no, real talk, that's crazy. That's crazy. Now it's making billions of money. Yep. But what I'm trying to say is the story. At the core of the story, what it was, people eat that up. But I think that's also like white saviorism. And we're not going to get into that today.
That's a different topic.
That's a whole different topic. But in the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is it's not just throwing diversity points.
Race
right.
It's
not
the
just
screen.
It's telling the stories and the enrichment behind it. And that's what we desperately need more of. That's honestly, I was like, I want to become a casting director just to cast people. Just to cast like everyone
the behind
else.
The scene work. Like
Heavy
that
on
really
that.
Does make a change.
Heavy on that.
So yeah.
What are your last little thoughts, babe?
I mean, honestly, I thought this discussion was very rich, and I hope to see more changes in the future because seeing more modern shows get made and more diversity in it, I hope the writers behind the scenes sees the need for richness and they start to bring in more people of color behind the scenes because they really do make a difference.
Yes,
on
please.
The shows. So,
and that's our final touch. So obviously, I like to do my little song rec, and Trick does her little TikTok bit. Guys, I'm gonna say my song of choice today is Disillusion by Daniel Caesar, the well-known coon.
Okay.
Apologies. I know.
What?
I know. But guys, this song really hits. So, maybe stream it without giving him a little profit. You can do that. I'll give it a little try.
So the song is good.
It's a really good song. It's a really good song. So he got me. He got me.
Okay. Well, what did I see on TikTok this week? I was, scrolling through TikTok. Everybody's aware of the term doom scrolling, where you're literally just scrolling to disassociate. And people were like, hey, here's a really good alternative to doom scrolling is cozy games. where they talk about how doing like menial tasks, repetitive tasks in games kind of brings your stress levels down, and playing cozy games can be really beneficial to your mental health if you really need it. If you need to disassociate with a cozy game, because on TikTok you're constantly going through stressors, advertisements, content, and it's kind of like, look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? They were sharing how Minecraft is not a cozy game because you have to survive.
Oh, that's a good point.
And, you know, games that make you do repetitive tasks and that there's no harm, that helps.
Guys, also,
shout out to gaming.
You could pick up a cozy book, because that's making me feel like a cozy little book would be nice too. And
so take care of your mental health. Don't doom scroll. I'm trying my best, but I'm still working on it.
I be doom scrolling like crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I be doom scrolling till the point of spoilers, and then I'd be getting mad. I'd be like hyperfixating on my media, and I'm like, spoilers, oh, spoiler, oh. But then I'll be like, but I want to go back and look more edits of it. And then I get more spoilers, and I'm like, you could always be spoiled worse. And then I get spoiled worse, and then it's a cycle, guys.
It's a cycle. It's a dangerous cycle.
It's a bad cycle. Get off social media. You could be on a little bit.
Pros and cons.
But you know, have discernment. Truly. And that is a wrap. So shout out to Bobby, and shout out to the Humanities Department. And it is so good to be back, guys. And
we'll see you next Thursday.
Bye.